Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Shanza Khan. I'm the founder and CEO of Ion Ivy. Today, I'm honored and privileged to have with me Dr. Amin Hashmi, all the way from the United Kingdom, a renowned NHS doctor, as well as the founder and CEO of Medology. Welcome so much, Amin and Dr. Hashmi. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. It's genuinely an honor to be here. And I was thinking about this earlier that every time I spend time with you guys, the team, Ahmed Bhai in particular, it's just very inspiring to see what you're doing and learn from your ethos. Like I've learned so much. It's been maybe a year and a half since we first connected, but genuinely, yeah, every interaction has been amazing. And last time I came to Pakistan, was very grateful for the support you guys gave, and this time as well, it's very exciting and even more of an honor to be here.
No, thank you
Yeah.
so much for those kind words. And Medology, for those of you who do not know, is a medical and dental career pathway for students who are looking for admissions, particularly in the UK. I'll let Dr. Hashmi talk a little bit more about that. But before we dive into that, Dr. Hashmi, I want to take a step back and would ask you to share a little bit about your journey yourself. You used to be a medical student before you became obviously a doctor and then a founder of this organization. Tell us a little bit about your journey and for our audience.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So my journey, you could say, wasn't that interesting, to be honest. I think I had it quite easy compared to what most people have. So for context, I'm very grateful to say, one of the leading grammar schools in the UK, Altrincham Grammar School for Boys, where I think very early on, we were almost conditioned to try and aim high, be high performers in everything. So from a very early age, I had that support around me, I would say. And I'm grateful to my parents for making me get into that school, which wasn't necessarily easy because, again, from a young age, you have to prepare for the entrance exam and pass that and go through all that. So I was there for 7 years, from year 7 till year 13. And it was like the best environment I could ever ask for, to be able to just grow into a young person. And the opportunities we had, the teachers, everything was fantastic. So my journey, I think, wasn't that exciting in the sense that things, I'm very grateful to say, just lined in place, and I didn't have to do too much. But I think what that's given me is it's really opened my eyes over the years to how much other people don't have those opportunities, and it's made me realize how much support is needed. And maybe that's even why Medology started in the first place. So I wasn't a medical student too long ago. I'm only 1 year out of graduating, so I'm still kind of young, even though people sometimes think I'm older than I am. But this started when I was at the end of my high school journey with a group of friends, and we were the batch of students that we were going to sit our A levels, but then COVID came, so it all went to the bin. So we had 6 months off to do nothing, and we got together and we thought, you know what, there's only so many video games you can play before you just get bored. And we thought, why don't we do something to actually make the most of our time? And so it sounds very cliche, but this is something that started in bedrooms during lockdown. And again, by the grace of God, it's taken us all over the world. We've helped over 10,000 students when we did the last count, across 62 countries.
Wow.
Who've attended our programs in different ways. And so many more opportunities which we can get into. But yeah, I think the founding story or my journey isn't that exciting, but I think it's shown me a lot of interesting things that you can achieve by having the right environment and people around you, which is something I want to talk about later.
So, Dr. Hashmi, just to kind of put or pin the nail on this, during that time in grammar school and O levels and A levels, the decision to go into medical school, because you're 15, 16 years old, this is a conversation I have with my own son.
Mm-hmm.
Was the decision to take science subjects and go down the medical pathway yours? Or was it coming from your parents or structured guidance? How did that come into being?
That is a question that I ask myself very frequently, because a lot of the work over the last 6 years has been helping students like myself, get into medicine or finding whether medicine's for them or not. And they always ask this question as well. I think with me, I don't have some magical story or something I witnessed where I was like, you know what, this is why I want to be a doctor. You know, lots of people sometimes go through an experience like with a family member, or they experience care themselves and they want to kind of replicate that impact on others. I think with me, it was very simple. I did naturally gravitate more towards the science subjects. Although, having said that, from a young age, actually, everyone thought I'd go into IT because I was very just nerdy, loved playing with computers. Like, I'd always be the one to just, for example, if anyone had any issues, like the one to debug them. Or I spent a lot of time tinkering with computers and jailbreaking iPhones and installing custom like softwares on Android phones and stuff. But I just got into early, early O levels, and we had a few introductory lessons in computer science. I just hated programming. It didn't make sense to me. I didn't want to even go near it because I'm quite impatient as well. So I think I didn't like computer science. So then I just ruled out the computer and IT pathway.
Okay.
And then science was the subject that I naturally was decent at. I wasn't
Okay.
like amazing, but I think I liked it. I liked biology, and I just kept those subjects going. And then by the time it got to A levels, I picked biology, chemistry, maths, which is actually in the UK we call it the Asian three. I picked those, and
So wait, chemistry is not required in the UK?
it is
Oh,
biology,
okay.
chemistry,
Sorry,
maths. Yeah.
physics is not required.
Physics not required.
Okay.
No, physics not required. Thankfully, because I didn't like physics either. So I wasn't
Okay.
that sciencey. I was more like a human type of science interested person. And I think when it gets to that point, you're doing biology, chemistry, maths. When you look at the different career options available to you, I think at that time, and this is even something that I think even now as well, um, you can either go deep into a subject, like you can study biology or some science major at university, but that doesn't necessarily lead you to getting a job at the end of it. Whereas medicine, for example, and these other healthcare careers, they kind of combine the scientific, knowledge and interest you might have, and let you exercise it as well. I think I wasn't necessarily interested in science just for the sake of research or going super deep into something and looking into it. I think I wanted to do something that would let me also apply my kind of knowledge. I think healthcare careers stood out, and then within the healthcare sphere, I think medicine was where I just thought, based on what I think, it just seems like the most logical choice.
So your parents did not pressure you, in other words?
They didn't, honestly. So for context, my father is a doctor, and
this is not sounding right, Dr. Hashmi.
Genuinely, he was actually, I mean, if anything, he said this to all my siblings, that you should do dentistry, because dentistry, it's got a better work-life balance for sure. You can earn more money and all that, but I just wasn't interested in the mouth or oral terminology. Although a lot of people actually, in hindsight, when they start medical school, they look at the dentists. The dentists are having much more of a chill time at university. They look at dentists working and they see, oh, they earn much more money than us and work less. Some of them actually don't regret their decision, but they wish, oh, I wish I did dentistry. But no, I wasn't actually pressured at all. But I think, having said that, when you come from a healthcare background family, maybe there's like a subconscious thing within you, which even if your parents never said anything, so mine never said anything, but you feel like maybe if you don't do it, you might not make them as proud as they could be,
Okay.
This is a theme I've seen among students as well, because again, plenty of doctor families send kids our way and they're like, make my child do medicine or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're not actually directly pressuring their kids, but there's a bit of underlying subconscious expectations.
And medical school itself.
Yeah.
So this is once again expectations versus, let's say, a student innately wanting to do it.
Yeah.
And what your own experience versus what you saw around you versus the guidance also that you give students. Let's say a student has this aptitude, likes the sciences. How tough is medical school in the UK? 5-year program?
5 years, yeah.
And, tell us a little bit about your experience and, in comparison to maybe, people who are doing, let's say, business in King's or Warwick, and, your friends who decided to go along other pathways versus you doing medicine in the UK. Yeah. So a little bit about, comparison of your journey versus your friends who went to grammar school.
So that's actually a very interesting question. And I won't speak for medical schools globally because obviously I went to medical school in the UK. I know quite a lot of people in Europe and other countries as well, but I've got a very interesting thing to say about UK medical school, which no one's really ever going to tell anyone, and that is that you actually have so much more free time than you might think.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay, that's the first. So
yeah.
free time in medical school, we're going to underscore this and hold Dr. Hashmi to
Hold me
this.
to account.
So
Yeah,
this is maybe UK. I haven't heard this in Pakistan,
yeah.
but maybe you might want to explore medical school in the UK after you hear this podcast.
No, well, I'll talk about that as well. But genuinely, and I mean this, for example, on my LinkedIn profile when I was in medical school, I used to always, even in there, even now it's written something similar. But back then, it was written that, hello, I'm Amina, I'm a medical student, but that is my side hustle. So I literally, yes, I described it as my side hustle during my time at university.
Uh-huh.
The reason for that is because they actually give you a lot more flexibility in how you want to approach your learning. They're quite big on this self directed learning,
Yeah.
and they encourage a lot of independence. So often, what happens is at the start of a week, the university gives you learning objectives you need to cover. Whether you take 20 hours to cover them, 5 hours, 2 hours, however long, as long as you're able to cover the material and content, you've done your job. And you'll have some kind of small group teaching sessions here and there, but universities on the whole are moving more towards self-directed learning. You may have lectures in some places, but overall, my point is that it's very independent. So you're left by yourself, and if you have good work ethic, discipline, if you instill those skills from now, then you'll find medical school in the UK at least fairly easy to be able to do a lot outside of it as well.
Wow, that's just such a myth buster. From what I hear about medicine, which is like,
Yeah,
you're working around the clock,
yeah,
you're simply not sleeping and so on. So this is such a pleasant
yeah,
change, Dr. Hashmi. You might have won some students over today to consider medicine
yeah.
as a
But
career.
maybe, yeah, honestly, that is a good point where I have had friends who did many other degrees as well, and I didn't feel much busier than them, it felt very similar. So I wouldn't let fears like that put you off. People tell you in the UK, or again, I can't speak for other countries. I know America is very different when it comes to medical education. Pakistan, I'm 100% sure will be very different as well. But the UK, at least, even the university professors, your faculty, from day one, they're telling you, please have a work-life balance. Make sure you have it. For example, we would get Wednesday afternoons off every week, as like they would actively promote that across our university and others as well. That have a break, do sports, do have a life. It's huge there. So they try to at least look after your well-being in the UK.
Okay, you won the student over.
Okay.
A great work-life balance. You like biology and
Yeah,
chemistry. This is great. Now you're talking to me as a parent, and I'm thinking, okay, UK medicine, it's a hefty paycheck, Dr. Hashmi. I am forking up to the tune of, let's say, £60,000 a year
yeah,
or so.
yeah.
And now this is a question for you as the founder of Medology. What are the job prospects for my kid if they go to med school in the UK to land a gig
Mm-hmm.
once they graduate? I increasingly hear about AI taking over medicine, doctors becoming obsolete.
Yeah, yeah.
You've graduated a year ago. I want to know what you feel the situation is
Yeah,
on the ground.
yeah. So recently, it has been quite tricky for anyone from any university, anywhere in the world, to get a job in the UK. There's been political issues and things like that. The government has increased medical school spaces, but they haven't increased the number of doctor jobs and training jobs and everything. So there's been a big bottleneck, basically. So there's actually been lots of protests going on, junior doctors going on strike. Even whilst I've been working, there's been stretches of 5 days at a time where collectively all the doctors have been like, we're not going to work, and we haven't gone to work. So it's not necessarily a holiday. It's actually you're striking, right? You're supposed to strike and lobby against that. But recently, in the last week or two, the government actually passed a bill where in coming years they're going to actually prioritize UK graduates for jobs in the UK when it comes to
Okay.
medicine. And other countries, I know America, for example, they've always looked after their own. UK hasn't been like that until this year, where they will prioritize people that graduate from their own
In their
institutions.
own institutions.
So
Okay.
when it comes to the UK medical degree, one of the new, you could say, perks of, and by the way, I genuinely, I'm not here to promote or sell it to anyone because it is an option that only a small minority will be able to afford, and I
Yeah.
recognize that. And there's other pathways that maybe make more sense for a Pakistani student, here globally, which we can talk about another time. But when it comes to the UK medical degree now, first of all, I think graduating from there will definitely put you in a better position compared to someone who's graduated from somewhere else and come to the UK to find a job. You are guaranteed a job after you graduate for 2 years at least from
You are
the
guaranteed a job.
yeah, for 2 years.
And this guarantee is by the government.
Pretty much, yeah. So that you
Is
have
it at minimum wage?
well, it's not minimum wage, but it's not amazing pay. However, it has increased compared to previous years. So
Okay.
for context, let me give you context. You'll probably be paid after taxes and everything, take home pay around £2,500 a month
Okay.
in your first year as a doctor, basically.
Okay.
So that's around the take home pay. So that's like 8 lakh rupees maybe, or
Okay.
something like that. Which I know sounds like a lot for here, but over there
Okay.
it's not as much. But where were we at? We were talking about the job prospects. So yeah, first of all, you are guaranteed a job. Second of all, having that UK medical degree will mean that you're in a better position to get further training as well, because I'm sure, as you guys know, being a doctor is a long route
Yeah.
where multiple kind of exams and different training kind of pathways and jobs you need to kind of do to get to your final kind of position. So it will put you in an advantage in that. And the other thing as well, though, is, and this is something increasingly more common, which is that a significant proportion of final year medical students in the UK never actually go and practice clinical medicine. They will go into other careers as well. And that's, I think, another area where the UK medical degree holds a lot of weight.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, talk a little bit more about that, Dr. Hashmi.
Yeah.
How does that come into play?
So people may go into consulting, healthcare consulting. They may go into like forming their own business. Other industries will very favorably employ a medical graduate because
Okay.
they recognize that going through that degree builds a lot of skills. It's not obviously easy to get into, and they see a lot of value in that. So medics pivot towards law, finance, many other industries, which is very common in the UK as well. So it's not always a case of you go to medical school, you come out as a clinical doctor. You can go into anywhere else. And I've heard many people have said to me, again, this isn't necessarily my expertise, but they've said that you'll feel the weight or how valuable a UK degree is overseas as well. So if you, again, not just within medicine, but in other industries, if you want to pivot, it gives you a very good standing from what I've been told.
So let's now take a step back, Dr. Hashmi, to Medology itself. You developed it during COVID times. What exactly is the mission of Medology? What have you set out to do?
Good question. So initially, when we started, we were quite young. We were just trying to find our feet and see what value we can add to the world. We just wanted to help students get into medical school, and as many as we could and everything like that. Over the years, we very, again, thanks to God, have been recognized by many different industry leaders in different fields, and in healthcare as well. So, for example, some of the most senior figures in the NHS, National Health Service in the UK, they support our mission, they speak at our events, they guide us. Now we've kind of come to a position where we are trying to build future healthcare leaders. We want to take students, which again, we have lots that come to us. We want to help them become people that can genuinely make a difference across the world in medicine in different industries. So right now we're very focused on trying to create the next generation of healthcare leaders. How that's done is done through our programs. So we're not like an agency or a consultancy. We're more of like I would say we're like an institute that we genuinely try and build students, and give them timeless skills and principles and the confidence that they can do a lot more than just like getting into medicine is just the step one of their journey. There's so much more they can do, and we tried to cultivate that mindset amongst the community. So that's the current mission. There's I hope makes sense.
Can you talk a little bit about the different services and programs that you have?
Yeah. So when it comes to the UK admissions process, we sort you out from right from the beginning, right until you are in university, and then through it as well. So
So you stay with them throughout?
yeah.
Okay.
So initially, a student will be in maybe year 10, 11, 12. They'll be looking for whether they want to do medicine or not, or dentistry. And at that stage, we work with them to build their insight into the career. So we run different programs in person, online, which will help them understand what is medicine, what is dentistry, what are the different skills, roles, and qualities of a doctor, what's the reality of the career. We give them that, you could say, work experience without actually them being physically in a hospital. We kind of bring it to them, like a very unfiltered, raw overview of what this journey ahead is. So we build that insight from an early stage and help them decide whether it's a career for them. If they've decided, then we start working with them through different programs to build their portfolio. Because to get into medicine, obviously, you need to have certain characteristics, attributes, and you could say things on your CV that the selectors are looking for. So we help them build those things. And from very early on, we try and work with them to build their communication skills, build their confidence, because those are things which interviewers will be very, stringent and looking at when it comes to letting students in. So we build their insight, we help build their portfolio. We then work with them on specific aspects of the applications process. So there's the UCAT exam, which you need to sit to get into medicine. That's often the turning point, because that's where you could be an amazing student, but if you don't get a good UCAT score, then you're not going to be able to be let into university.
So you do test prep?
Yeah.
Okay.
Test prep. We help write personal statements, which for medicine and dentistry are not a big deal at all. They're more of a formality. But the reason that we put emphasis into them is because the work you put in to write a personal statement reflects on how you will do an interview as well, because it requires thought. It requires really being able to articulate your motivation, your experiences. So we help them write that. And then we help. The main thing, though, I would say, is our interview service, where we, again, coach students through the whole journey. Because interviews aren't a case of coming to one course and then that's it. You're able to speak and do really well. We take students through boot camps, which can be 12 weeks at a time.
Wow, that's intensive interview prep, Dr. Hashmi.
It is. It's only 2 hours a week though on a weekend, so it's not loads, but
that's still like
intensive.
That's a lot.
Yeah. But we do that because we obviously, many students, especially in these fields, they're academically very smart. They've got all the, they can do exams really well. They've built a good CV, for example. But even being able to articulate yourself and communicate your passion and reflections is not that easy. So it requires a decent amount of time to be able to coach them through. And so interviews, we help them through that. And then they get their, hopefully, offer from university.
How selective are UK medical university? What is the acceptance rate? Can you give some perspective to the Pakistani and UAE audience who's perhaps not as familiar with it?
Of course. So every single year, 40,000 people sit the UCAT exam. And if you look at how many offers are given out by medical dental schools, it's just about 10,000. So 1 in 4. So 25% is the acceptance rate overall. Which, honestly speaking, you'll know better how that compares to other programs, but it's not that high, is it? So through our, people that go with us through our journey, or through our programs, have a well within 90% success when we help them the whole way, not just dropping in and out, but the whole way.
Sure.
So it is competitive. It's not obviously guaranteed, but the main turning point is the UCAT and the interviews, because the UCAT, it's very binary in the sense that if you get a score that's good enough, then you're through to the next stage. Doesn't matter how high you get in the UCAT, as long as you have a score good enough, they'll let you through to the interview. And then getting the interview, even at interview stage, you have around about a 50% chance of getting in. So
the interview is extremely important.
Very important, yeah. Which is why we put most emphasis on that, and it's our biggest passion as well, because interview prep, taking a student who can't speak that well, and in the end of the 12 weeks and seeing how they've transformed is magical. And it gives them lasting, benefits beyond just their application. Like they they'll see the fruits of that going into university and beyond as well. So that's the most rewarding thing for us, interview preparation. Yeah.
Yeah. No, this has, been a lot of revelation, Dr. Hashmi, and I'm sure that, if this was particularly a live session, we would be getting like tons of questions from parents wanting to ask you things. Um, one thing in today's day and age, and particularly as a school counselor that I see, is student readiness
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to the long medical journey, short attention spans,
Mm-hmm.
with social media around, a general burnout. It was actually quite revealing to me when you put so much emphasis that the UK medical system allows you that break. They're allowing you that pause for overall, check in for yourself. So that's actually a very good kind of alternative to, perhaps an alternative system that we see over here. Can you share anecdotes with us of international students from perhaps Pakistan or the Middle East who decided not to go to medical school here and decided to go to medical school in the UK instead? And what happened to them? What was their trajectory?
Mm-hmm. So you've put me on the spot there, but
It's what I'm trained to do.
yeah, very good. Signs of a good host. Um, Actually, one of our very first students that ever came through the Medology system, at least in the first year or two, she was a student from Lahore, actually.
Okay.
And so she went to one of the best schools here. And I don't know how we kind of connected. She just saw our Instagram. So, for context, our biggest kind of funnel or people discovering who we are over the years has just been our Instagram page, where we used to just give loads of advice out and have a 24/7 DM service, which now that we've grown a lot more is not that sustainable. We kind of don't do that anymore. But she came across us and would just DM us for advice, and we helped her through. And she came from Lahore, and she's now in the UK studying medicine. I think she's now in at least her fourth year, or maybe even fifth year now. Um, Her just reasoning for choosing the UK was just because she believed that it would help her with the prospects of being able to train in the UK and actually have a lengthy career. So there wasn't anything special to it, I think. It was more just a strategic decision where she realized that it will just make her life a lot easier than coming as a graduate, doing all the postgraduate exams to get in, where it is more tricky. Plenty of people have done it, but her reason was just that. So I don't think it requires necessarily a really grand or special reason. I think if your circumstances align with the being able to, for example, afford the cost of studying there, if you see your long term future in the UK and want to kind of settle down there and can afford it, then I think it can make more sense. Having said that, though, again, I have absolutely no agenda, so I'm not saying you should, or because plenty of people have gone the other way, where they've gone to a great medical school in Pakistan, for example, they've cleared the exams to go to the UK, and they're now consultants and top doctors there. So I think it just depends on circumstances. I don't think it's right or sincere to push anyone in this direction. So that's never been my intention. I actually want to show people other pathways as well. I think, for example, the European route might be attractive to a lot of people as well, which we could talk about another time. And even again, staying in Pakistan and then going by the postgrad route, which maybe now over coming years will look more difficult, but there'll always be demand for doctors. The UK is not the only country as well. There's plenty more that people can explore and look to. And so, yeah, I just wouldn't feel right to push anyone in a certain direction. I think ultimately, at the end of the day, it's someone's own decision based on their circumstance and context, and that I think requires discussion, which is why we exist. Maybe if you come to us and have a chat based on your circumstances, we can advise you, whether it makes sense or not. But it's very hard to give a general kind of.
No, that's what I appreciate about you, Dr. Hashmi, that there is not a black and white. It does depend on the family circumstances, the student circumstances, what it is that they want for themselves, for the future, and the answer could very well change depending on that. I know you keep alluding to a future conversation, and yes, I think we should have a part two of the series on Europe and on Australia
Yep, would be good.
as well. And that I will part with our viewers that means that Medology is expanding to other parts of the world.
Yep.
There is one more aspect, Dr. Hashmi, while I have you with me here today. Um, Generally, how do you see students approaching medicine today as a career? Do you see them pursuing it as a responsibility or as a lucrative financial outlet?
Well, it definitely isn't a lucrative financial outlet in the UK. Definitely not.
So let's bust that myth.
Yeah, bust that myth for sure.
Okay.
It will require many years of, you could say, sacrifice to get to a position where you can actually make good money from medicine in the UK. It definitely isn't that. Like, if you want to make money, you should either be a dentist or
Oh, I've now heard you allude to that several times today in this conversation.
Yep, that is true. Although having said that, again, dentistry is not a guarantee of, do dentistry, you'll be mega rich. It's also very competitive in itself, where you get your degree, but then after that you have to kind of almost sell yourself, because it's quite a lot more privatized and a lot more. So it's not a free golden ticket. But in terms of medicine, definitely not. Like, I think most people in the UK realize and go into it knowing that it's not going to make them a millionaire. Having said that, doctors do earn a good kind of salary for what they do. Well, people would argue against that, but they earn they earn enough to have a decent life, somewhat comfortable life, and there's always that kind of demand and somewhat job security that should always remain, which I know AI is threatening, but we can talk about that as well.
I do want to talk about that.
We will talk about that. Yeah,
yes.
we will. I've got some things to say. But so I don't think in the UK there's much of this culture that people are thinking medicine's the route that they want to go to make money. I think people may be more drawn towards the prestige or the kind of, feeling or having that label of, oh, I'm a doctor, because it is true. Like my life changed so much just by getting the doctor label. Even though, for example, I was doing the exact same work that I was doing the day before I got the label, but then having the label just changed the way that people perceived me. It really helped elevate Medology, for example, in terms of our stature and the rooms and conversations we had with different people in terms of business, right? So people probably go into it for that reason. And what I would say is if they're going into it for prestige, yes, there are definitely certain perks that do come with having the doctor label, but that itself is not a strong enough thing that will keep you going through. It's like a short-term dopamine hit or buzz. It's not going to be the thing that carries you because it's a very long road. This is another thing as well. So the difference with the UK compared to, for example, the USA at least, is that our medical training pathway is a lot longer.
Longer than the US?
Yeah.
But US is 4+4. There's 4 years of undergrad, then there's 4 years of med school, and then you have your residency, your fellowship, and so on. So how is the UK even longer than that?
So if you do the numbers, 4 years undergrad, 4 years obviously your medical degree, but then residency is about 4 years long most of the time, or 3 or 4. So I think normally 3, and then if you do
depending on the specialization.
So 11 years, right? You're attending, you're a consultant basically. In the UK, yes, you have your 5 years of med school. Actually, some programs are 6 years because they do an intercalation, which is like a year out in between to study some maybe scientific subject, something that's not scientific. So you have 5-6 years of med school, 2 years foundation training, 3 years generally initial specialty training, then 4 to 5 more years of final like specialty training as well. So it's basically could be 13, 14 years. People also have to do PhDs in between as well. So another 3 years, they have to take gap years to
wait. Why would you want to do a PhD?
Because to get a job at a top hospital, a top kind of training hospital or teaching hospital in the UK, you have to have academic credentials to stand out from other doctors to land that job. So, for example, where I work, there was a doctor. He was, you could say, postgraduate year, maybe 10 or 11, right? So he's been 10, 11 years out of med school. He has now gone off to do a 3-year PhD before coming back for his final 2 years.
Oh my
So
goodness.
it is very long. So there's that downside, you could say. I know, yes, America has the 4-year pre-university
Yeah.
stage, but I didn't really count that in the training because you're not actually a doctor at that point, or you're not in the medical sort
But
of.
you're
But it
spending
is,
years of your
yeah,
life.
you are spending years of your life. But then also when you're in a training job as well, you are earning a lot less than you would be if you were an attending. So if you're an attending by 10 years in the USA, you're earning a lot more than you'd be earning as a trainee in the UK. Yeah,
And the worrisome part out of all of this, Dr. Hashmi,
yeah,
we don't know the way AI is changing so rapidly. What's going to happen 5 years down the line?
yeah,
By your very admission, 13 years down the line, I worry
yeah.
what would be left of the profession. So, radiology, for instance, I'm
Mhm.
told, is completely out of the window as a subspecialty.
So even right now, at least in the UK, yes, I think there are AI tools that assist radiologists, but there's still massive demand for radiologists. Um, and also within radiology, there's different fields. So, for example, interventional radiology, where it actually involves having to, stick wires into people's different blood vessels or something to do a procedure. That's not going to go anytime soon.
Okay.
So perhaps again, certain specialties may have to adapt. For example, even if a robot or AI is able to interpret a scan perfectly, someone's going to have to be trained to do the procedure, right? For example, with interventional radiology, for example, someone might have like some sort of bleeding going on in their body, which the radiologist needs to find the exact blood vessel, and then they'll have to kind of guide some wires and things to be able to plug that bleeding, which until a robot can come and do that, humans are going to have to do that. But one thing that one of my mentors, who's again, he's one of the most senior kind of NHS leaders, Dr. Masood, he basically says, it's got an iconic quote that AI isn't going to replace doctors, but doctors that can use AI will replace doctors. So I think the important thing going forward for people entering the field and people like myself as well, I'm still very early on in my medical journey, is going to have to be to stay in tune with AI and kind of make sure that I'm up to date with it and AI literate to be able to use it or help innovate or drive the profession forward with it as well. So again, it's very early days. I don't want to speak too boldly or whatever, because someone we may watch this back in a few years and laugh like, what the hell are you saying? We're all jobless, and I mean, we hate you. But for now, I also, another thing as well is, so you'd be surprised that one department that I worked in, they were still using paper notes in 2026, paper notes and paper drug prescribing forms, which even many hospitals in Pakistan don't use. I was at actually Pakistan Kidney Liver Institute this morning, and I was shadowing because I had a friend who did shadowing in the UK at my hospital when he was there for 3 months. So I said, when I come to Pakistan, I'll come shadow you in return. So I did that this morning, and again, they've got electronic notes, electronic records, electronic prescribed everything. In the UK, some places still haven't got that. So in terms of the NHS, I don't mean to say this to you talk badly about it. I've got nothing against it, but it takes a lot of time to roll things out. So it's taken them years, almost decades, to move to electronic notes, for example. How long is it going to take for them to have AI widespread? It feels like it'll take a long time.
Mm.
So things move quite slowly, I think, in healthcare, especially because this is ultimately patients and people's lives, which are very delicate and precious. So I don't know. I'm very curious. I'm watching carefully. Things could change very fast, but for now, it doesn't seem to be. We don't seem to be staring down the barrel of a gun just yet. Yeah.
That's a relief to hear.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to students and parents who are listening to this podcast, Dr. Hashmi, who are figuring out or trying to figure out should they head down the medical pathway or not, and how can they reach out to you?
Yeah. So honestly, the decision isn't something that anyone can make for you. it's just going to require experiences. Like, one thing that I always find funny is when students come to us at a young age without having done much experience, and they're so set on becoming a doctor, because you're clearly not, your intentions or your motivation clearly isn't in the right place, because you haven't seen what it is like to be able to make that decision. So I think people need to just find ways to seek multiple experiences in across industries. And I know that that's not necessarily a blessing that everyone gets, because not every school can facilitate kind of insight into many careers. So it is tricky. And that's maybe why you have to come to people and try and leverage the connections you have to try and get some sort of experience wherever you can. But ultimately, I think that's the bedrock. You have to just try and seek as many opportunities as you can to understand all the different fields you can out there. Again, use the internet, go on, spend time on Google, go on YouTube, understand different jobs and roles and what these things require of you. And then ultimately, I think with all this, you just have to make a decision that, okay, based upon my context, my circumstances, my academic profile, my opportunities and everything else, this is the path I want to go down. I'd be curious to hear from you, because you've got a lot more experience in all this. But I personally believe that anyone can become anything.
I agree with you. I think it's where your passion kind of lies, right? So
Hmm.
it's where you want to go, and the rest, the doorways can open.
Yeah,
But I think the key factor is motivation. How motivated are you? How much is the student in the driving seat
yeah,
versus parents who are steering the car?
yeah,
Because if the parents are steering the car, I've seen it that even if the student is a good student,
yeah.
there's enough, confusion and constant changing of subjects. There's that uncertainty. Whereas if there's hunger on the part of the student in terms of learning,
Hmm.
then the sky's the limit. I mean, those are the best sort of students.
Yeah, I agree. And I think linking to that as well, I don't necessarily believe that there's a specific type of person that should do medicine or shouldn't. Like, I think if you actually go to medical school and see how different people are, and the variety of personalities, there's no like set personality type. There's nothing I can say that, oh, if you're this kind of person, do medicine. If you're this kind of person, don't. Because within medicine, you'll find your calling. And I think sometimes as well, I personally believe that at such a young age, you don't really fully know what you want. But if something is pulling you towards a certain direction, definitely pursue it. Because I think, for example, with medicine, there's well over 50 different specialties, for example. You are so bound to finding one that clicks with you, because each specialty has such different requirements. And yeah, you could say each specialty attracts a certain kind of person. For example, someone that goes into pathology clearly someone is clearly very different from someone that does surgery, because those two things are so different. So medicine's got a good scope for every kind of person, I feel, which is another, I guess, selling point for the degree itself. Maybe that's why parents are also quite sometimes pushy to get their kids into it, because they realize that my kid will, through this, eventually find what they want to do. I actually, throughout all of medical school, did not know what I wanted to do in terms of specialty. I'm only maybe starting now to see what I like and don't like, but even then, I'm still very open-minded. So it's quite cool in that sense that you carve out your own path, and sometimes if you just make that decision, dive into it, you will find something that aligns with you and that you are passionate about. So yeah.
That's great, Dr. Hashmi. Thank you so much for the insights that you have shared with us today. Um, if I would, we would have your contact details at the bottom of this podcast. Anyone who wants to get in touch with Dr. Hashmi can reach out to him by WhatsApp as well as email, and direct all queries to him. He is our medical expert. We strongly believe, once again, that the more information that parents and students have about any particular area and make informed decisions, that is the best way to go. And the way to find this out is talking to people who've gone through the experiences themselves, which is why we host people from a plethora of backgrounds. If you want to explore the UK medical universities, no better place than to talk to Dr. Hashmi, who's a product of the UK medical universities and an NHS doctor. we will be hosting somebody who has studied from AKU and the Pakistani system as well. So we have a compare and contrast for parents. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today, and we look forward to bringing you more insightful sessions. Thank you.